Lucifer, the Archangel. Who is Lucifer? Now, I've been researching a lot about, who was Lucifer, trying to connect dots with different mythologies, different religions, and different standpoints on Lucifer. Okay, and who is Lucifer, and trying to understand what that is. So, with that being said, any anything I say in this video is not 100% definite. And with that being said, I made this video for educational purposes only, and for a way for me to, in a way, checkpoint my progress in this journey. And I want to put this out there as well, because I want to see, for you guys, whoever's watching this, maybe you know something that I don't necessarily, and you can contribute by, for example, commenting in the video, because you might comment or know something that I don't, and that might, connect another dot for me. I also want to say, I realized that if you haven't come across this type of research before, this video might come across as very confusing. Okay, so that's just a heads up for y'all. So to begin with, easing into this topic of Lucifer, we have to understand Lucifer comes from Latin, which means Lightbringer, right? And Lucifer is associated with the planet Venus, and that's because Venus is the third brightest celestial objects that we can see. Okay, first being the sun, then the moon, then Venus. In ancient religions of Greek, okay, in the Greek mythology, because you have to understand how these ancients did it, is that they saw planets and they attributed those planets to be deities, right? So many times you look into ancient religions, you come across how the planet's celestial objects, stars are attributed to be a deity and worshipped upon. So in Greek, they called Venus Phosphorus and Heosophorus. Phosphorus meaning light bearer, Heosophorus meaning dawn bringer. And the reason there's two names for Venus is because one's during sunrise and one's during sunset. But the Greeks didn't understand they were both the same star or planet called Venus, so they called it two names. In Hebrew, it's translated into the shining one called Hel-El, right? Helel. So that's to do with the shining one, okay, the illuminated one. So Lucifer is Venus, okay. Now this brings into question about who and what Lucifer is, because if you look into Venus, right, Venus is a very feminine energy planet. Just search up the symbol of Venus, which is the symbol for females, okay. So this brings into question about the Orthodox Christian teaching of Satan / the devil. I'm not necessarily saying Lucifer is Satan or the devil, even that's what most people think, but let's just go with that for now. So we are said and taught that Satan / the devil is a red horned guy with a pitchfork that is a male, that has male characteristics. But this, on the contrary, Lucifer is Venus, but Venus is feminine. But if Lucifer is Satan, and Satan has male, and then Lucifer is female, this brings into question, are they even talking about the same thing? Further into that, you have, Venus in the Roman mythology, Aphrodite in the Greek mythology, okay, Innana, Sumerian, Ishtar, right? Ishtar. You got all these feminine goddesses associated with Venus. So I want to read this passage from Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall that talks about Ishtar and the feminine goddess. And from the passage it says, Ishtar, to whom the planet Venus was sacred, was the most widely venerated deity of the Babylonian Assyrian pantheon. She was probably identical with Ashtaroth, Ashdod, and Aphrodite. The story of her descended into the underworld in search presumably for the sacred elixir which alone could restore Tammuz to life is the key to the ritual of her mystery. Now, what I find interesting about this is the story of a descent into the underworld, right? That sounds like, Lucifer getting cast out of heaven. Book of Luke, King James Version, chapter 10, verse 18. And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as the lightning fall from heaven. So it's this theme of, you know, this thing, okay, this deity, or, whatever you want to call it, falling from heaven into what they call the underworld. So I'm going to say another verse from the Holy Bible. Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12, King James Version. The fall of Lucifer, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, morning star, the day star, which is Venus. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. So with that little parallel between Lucifer slash Ishtar slash Innana, I want to read a little bit about Innana, right? Because I think we can kind of draw comparisons between other deities with this. So Innana is an ancient Mesopotamian goddess associated with love, beauty, sex, war, justice, and political power. What I want to draw your attention to with that is that many of these Venus goddesses are love gods, and they happen to be associated with the planet Venus, just like Lucifer, right? So the love, okay, they're all love goddesses. So what I find interesting about that is that from a human standpoint, what is something that we call love, right? It's emotion. If you break down what emotion is a vibrational frequency. Okay, it's an energy. You can feel someone's vibe type thing that they're giving off, that emanating out of them. So with that being said, love is a frequency. And love is actually the highest possible frequency that you can achieve in humans, right? If you're feeling love, you're feeling happy, you're at peace. And with that, we can say that when you're in love and you're love with, at the love frequency, you're in harmony with nature, meaning that you are connected and one with the divine one, which is Lucifer. Because Lucifer is said to be the shining one, right? The light bearer, the illuminated one. But for you to be illuminated, you have to reach that state of, peace and to be in love, to be at the highest possible frequency possible. And that happens to be love. And with the thing with Divine One, okay, and creation from this Divine One, I want to get into the Gnosticism, okay, the Gnostic text of Nag Hammadi, and with Yaldaboath, which I think is find it really interesting, and there's many connections with that as well. The Demiurge is Yaldaboath, and Yaldaboath is Lucifer, and Yaldabaoth is the creator of this infinite universe that we call the Matrix. Therefore, Lucifer is that as well. And when looking into Nag Hammadi, okay, we come across Sophia or Sophia, who creates Yaldabaoth. And from that, Yaldabaoth creates his own, world. Just like in Hinduism, you have Vishnu, who sprouted a lotus flower from his navel that created Brahma. So in the Gnostics, they had Sophia slash Sophia, who in Hinduism they called Vishnu, who created Brahma, and Brahma is Yaldabaoth. But Yaldabaoth is Lucifer. So it's like God who created Lucifer, if you get what I'm trying to say. So here, reading from the Apocryphon of John, this gloomy ruler has three names. The first name is Yaldabaoth, the second is Sakla, the third is Shamiel. He is wicked in his mindlessness that is in him. He said, I am God, and there is no other God but me. Since he did not know where his own strength had come from. So what that essentially means is that his creator, Sophia, created Yaldabaoth, but Yaldabaoth went to the underworld. But in the underworld, all he could see was him, so he thought he was God. Now, reading from the Holy Bible, Book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 13, you said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. So that draws, parallels with what I just said with Yaldabaoth. But in the Holy Bible, you said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. That's like him, Yaldabaoth saying he's the only God, right? I am God, type thing. Verse 14, I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. So here again, you see another connection that's very similar. Before I continue, I want to give a huge thanks to whoever's watching this right now. Okay, please, if you know anything about this, or you may even have some theories about this, please share it with me, right? Because I think we can get to the bottom of this if we share information. And if you're new, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it. Anyways, if there's any keen listeners out there, you would have heard that I said Yaldabaoth, and from the Apocryphon of John, it refers to Yaldabaoth as a he. But I've been saying that Lucifer is a she, right? And that's interesting because that links back to what I said earlier on with questioning whether Satan/devil is even Lucifer. But Yaldabaoth is Lucifer, supposedly, right? So that will make Lucifer to be perhaps androgynous, okay? Might be a hermaphrodite. Reading from Gnostic Warrior on the god Yaldabaoth. He is first mentioned in the cosmos, chaos, and the underworld as one of the 12 angels to come into being to rule over chaos and the underworld. In the Gospel of Nicodemus, Yaldabaoth is called Satan, and Dante called the devil simply a worm. So reading from the Gnostic Warriors, I'm finding it kind of hard to decide whether Yaldabaoth is the Sumerian Anunnaki god of Enki, because there's already a Sumerian god of Ishtar and slash Innana that I've already said that's Lucifer. But it also makes sense that Lucifer is Enki as well, because Enki is said to be a serpent god. We know that Genesis, in the book of Genesis, right? You can have the serpent that supposedly deceived Eve to eat the apple. But that serpent is said to be Enki. But does that mean that that is Lucifer as well? Anyway, here reading from the Gnostic Warriors again. He strove to hide the fact that there were any power above him. But when he boasted that he was the highest, his mother Sophia cried, Thou liest, Yaldabaoth. Man creation of man was created by the 6 angels and by Yaldabaoth, who gave him the divine essence. So here it says Yaldabaoth created man. But in the story of Anunnaki, right, you have Enki, one of the chief scientists, who also created man. Right? And this also links with Greek mythology of Prometheus, the great Greek titan, who created humanity from clay and defined the god by stealing fire and giving it to humanity. So it's also this theme of giving light, serpent energy, which when you look at the story of Genesis, could it mean, the energy of Kundalini up the spine, and could that mean that the tree in Genesis was just an allegory for the Kundalini energy? Because again, this has to do with enlightenment, and that's what Lucifer and the light is. And another thing I want to point out about these, pantheons and gods, is that many of them are sex/fertility gods, right? And when you think about fertility, right, you think about creation and something coming out of nothing, just like a sperm and an egg cell coming together to make a baby, a creation. So with this Lucifer, Yaldabaoth, Enki, all the other ones I've just mentioned, right, it's this theme of creation, fertility gods. And Yaldabaoth is said to be, the creator of what we call the Matrix, right? This universe, like I said from the very start. and the prince of the creative forces in humans, which he is the father of the modern man in the form of earthly Adam and Eve of the biblical Garden of Eden. So I'm going to end it off there. Make sure you like, subscribe and share. As always, till next time guys, peace.